So hi guys, thank you very much for joining. Today's session is obviously run by HEDDA's Beautiful Hands, and it's a mentorship session designed to create convenient platforms to mentor entry-level employees and domestic workers to help acquire requisite skills and a high level of professionalism in their various career paths. So today we'll be talking majorly around communication for work and the workplace. And we have quite a few facilitators on today, or panelists, who have experience working in the communication field in different areas or in different sectors. But before we start off with our panelists, we just need a quick introductory message from Mrs. Hope David Ayabina, who is the founder of HEDDA's Beautiful Hands Limited, and to just give a quick introduction of what HEDDA's Hands does and what we hope to achieve with this free paid session. So I'll just hand over to Mrs. Ayabina to just give a brief introductory message. Over to you, Mrs. Ayabina.
Okay, merci beaucoup. Like you've already said, HEDDA's Beautiful Hands is originally started training domestic workers. But as time went on, we realized that most jobs we got were from people who wanted to train other assistants. Now, not just domestic workers, maybe store assistants, office assistants, office aides, and clerks and all. And we realized that most times those sets of people are not normally trained. And we saw the need to train them also, because they're just like the domestic workers, there's a high turnover in that field. Why? Because most times they do not even have the soft skills to keep their jobs. And as we went on, we realized that store assistants, hospital assistants are not necessarily just those that are not schooled. We also have those who are educated and have a degree, but of course, to climb the ladder in the international in an international organization or diplomatic sector, they actually have to start from the beginning, as we'll say. So we decided, okay, fine. And I've gotten so many questions from people who would want some advice on how to go about getting into work in an international organization or diplomatic sector, just because, yes, I've worked there. And I realized, oh, okay, so we could actually just mentor people through. Since I don't have all the answers, I was like, okay, so let me get people who I know, people already working in those sectors, who can assist and mentor other people trying to come in. So people just come on. So Insights, We Mentor, You Decide, is a platform where people could just share their experiences, and those who wish to learn from those experiences. So those who are already working with the international organization or diplomatic sector, and those who wish to also join, get to learn. So we all get to learn and share ideas. That's what the whole mentorship thing is all about. And we hope this will be beneficial to everyone. And during this session, we're going to have a poll. So you could let us know if the session is helpful, and if you have any specific topic you would want us to talk about that would help you in any way. Well, enjoy your time here, and thank you for coming.
Thank you, Mrs. Ayabina, for that introductory speech about what HEDDA's Hands offers basically for entry-level employees or people looking for entry-level jobs. So we'll just kick off today. So the way today's structure is going to be, I will introduce the panelists, and then they have about 5 minutes, or 5 minutes basically, to quickly introduce themselves and talk about their areas of expertise and their core strengths. And then we have 3 panelists, actually. Actually, we have 4 panelists. We should have 4 panelists, but we have 3 on the line now. And once we run through the brief introductions, what will happen then is we'll then move on to the question and answer session, where we're hoping all the participants can interact with the actual experienced facilitators or panelists. And then we just hope to answer all questions and then potentially wrap up by about 5:40. Okay. So I'll start off with introducing the first panelist is Mr. Atai Babs. I'll just pass the mic over to you, Mr. Babs, Mr. Atai Babs, to give a quick introduction about yourself, your experience, just for 5 minutes so that people have an idea of how long you've been working, where you've worked, and your experience in the communication field. And also I'll quickly share your profile on the screen and you could just run through it really. Over to you, Mr. Atai.
Okay, thank you very much, moderator. I was hoping to be the last, and fortunately, I became the first. So
last can be the first.
Yes. Well, my name is Ezekiel Babs, Ezekiel Opalua. Well, as it's on the screen there.
Yeah, exactly. I have that as a guide for you.
Yes, everyone can see it. Let me start by saying that I read language and linguistics from the University of Jos about 16 years ago. But before then, I had experience in media. So before going to the university, I was already freelancing for some newspapers in Nigeria. And so I majored in French from the University of Jos, and from there, after graduation, I got into Radio France International, first of all as a trilingual journalist, and then later as House Service Administrator. So I left there to establish the Climate Reporters, which later became African Climate Reports, covering environment and climate change across the continent. Also became the zonal, the regional coordinator for Pan-African Media Alliance for Climate Change, so covering for West Africa. So from there, I got into the African Union, which is the African Ministerial Council on Water. I did handled communications for AMCAO for 2 years. And then during the course of, these, during this, I offered also communication services to UNEP, to UNFCCC, and to the African Development Bank. And so by 2018, I joined the African Development Bank program on transformation, the technologies for African agricultural transformation, as communication specialist and head of communications. So I think in a nutshell, this is all about me.
Thank you very much, Mr. Atai Babs. I think that's a good introduction about yourself, your experience as a journalist, and your trajectory over the last 20 years. Thank you very much for that. What I'll do next is to move over to the next panelist, Mrs. Mariel Adiaga. If you could please introduce yourself as well, just give us a brief introduction about your experience and your trajectory, basically.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on here. I'm really excited. It's really good to be here. I'm Mariela Adiaga. So Adiaga, the name probably sounds a little bit familiar. I'm married to a Nigerian. And I'm a coach and I'm a therapist. So I've been doing that, especially now with the whole COVID developing around the world. There was more, a need for therapists and coaches, and that's this experience I had already. So that's what I've been doing recently a lot. But I've been working as part of international organizations for the past 20 years. I was born and raised in the Netherlands. That's where I started doing, as a teenager already, doing a lot of volunteer management, because my family was also involved with that. And I really enjoyed doing management and events, catering events. So that's how I basically started doing and developing my interest in doing different things, working in different team settings. So I've learned a lot there. And then when I finished my studies, I started working as a therapist. especially in psychiatry with young people. And then I moved to South Africa, which is a completely different nation again. That's where I worked as a counselor as well in different cultural settings. And I got in contact with the international organization there that they had a need for connecting with their donor base. They didn't know how to relate to their donors, and lots of fundraisers, especially back then, they really struggled with that. They were good with their finances, but they didn't really know how to actually engage their people. So I saw it as a really nice challenge. So of course, I got the training that's needed for doing that kind of work as well. And I started doing bequest liaison work. I started writing plans for organizations in how to engage their supporters, including legacy engagement as well. And so I did that actually next to the counseling and the therapy and all that. And I really enjoyed that. And when we moved to the United Kingdom, to put another country there, we've been here for the past 10 years. And I continued actually doing support engagement. Again, there's a great need for that. And I've learned a lot. I've been part of communications departments most of the time, because that's where fundraising, marketing, everything falls under. And because I worked a lot with people in different cultural settings, international teams, I was able to have a lot of input in international and global management and development and how to engage people globally. So I think in a nutshell, that's what I've been doing. And recently the coaching and really helping people in what you can do when you feel either stuck or when you need some tools into how to go to the next step in what to do next, or how to be part of a team, international team. So I've really been enjoying doing that. So that's what my most recent work has been even more, and it's been really good. So yeah, that's me.
Thank you very much. That was very, very good as well. It fits right in with today's theme on communications, and your coaching experience as well will probably be very helpful to all the participants on here today. And I'm sure you have many questions coming your way. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So I'll move on to the next panelist, Mr. Joseph Abuku, who is also a communications professional. And I'll just give the floor to you, Mr. Abuku, to just give a quick introduction about yourself, about 5 minutes, your current experience and your trajectory over the last few years. Over to you, Mr. Abuku.
Okay, thanks very much, moderator. And let me apologize for the very straight face in my picture. I mean, I smile a lot more often. Yeah. Okay, so thanks. So yeah, my name is Joe. I have worked in the communication space for quite a while, say way past 10, 12 years now. I started out, first of all, working as I read English from the Benue State University, the Benue State University's Department of Language and Linguistics. So I started out working as a government relations officer for some oil and gas logistics company. At the time, basically what my role entailed was dealing with the Nigerian government MGAs, be it immigration, be it the Ministry of Interior, and other regulatory agencies to ensure expatriates who were employed to come and work in Nigeria. For that, company had the right paperwork, had the right visas, residency permits, and all. So I think I did that briefly for 2 years, from 2006 to 2008. And then I had a chance meeting with a Financial Times reporter based in Nigeria at the time. We became friends, and he told me of an internship at the CNN bureau in Lagos. And I'd always had this keen interest to work in the international media space. So I was based in Abuja, but the offer sounded interesting to go in as an intern, learn the ropes of news gathering, researching stories. And also I took it up and made the relocation, even though before then I had boasted that if I had a job in Lagos that offered me $10 million, I wouldn't take it because I hate the stress that comes with Lagos. But I jumped on this one. to go take up that offer.
Never say
never say never. Basically, I started from the very lowest rungs. I mean, I was going there dreaming with, oops, I've got education to this level, blah, blah, blah. But no, I had to start learning from the basics. And the first thing I was taught was how to roll cables so that they don't become spaghetti, because you needed to untangle the cables first if you had to do production. And the whole idea behind that was testing my interest in the job. I had to learn that. I had to make coffee for cameramen. But gradually it grew into learning how to research a story, how to produce a story, how to set up interviews and get the sound bites that mattered. So from that foundational learning, I grew to become like an assistant producer. I set up a number of stories. Some of you remember when the central bank did come down on suspended some Nigerian banks. I produced the story, and that aired on CNN, and that was like a big moment for me. So I did that from 2008 to about 2011. Then I also briefly had a stint with a South African news organization called E-News Channel Africa, ENCA. Their logo was a small letter E. Some of you might have come in contact with it. There I worked as a producer briefly for 2 years, 2011 to 2013. And then I got Abuja C all over again. So I just woke up someday, grabbed my iPad and looked out for comms opportunities. And I noticed the International Committee of the Red Cross, ICRC, we're looking to hire a media officer. So I did apply for it. And I got called, did a test, attended interviews, and they picked me for the role. So I moved over to Abuja and became the ICRC media officer for 2 years. Basically, my role was to get relevant stakeholders, political authorities, and the media to gain a deeper understanding of the humanitarian work of the ICRC, to train and also to support journalists understand how to report conflict and humanitarian issues in a way that the lives or the concerns of victims, those caught up in conflict where their security was uppermost and their needs factored into. So I did the ICRC job for 2 years, quite an interesting one, working with different stakeholders from weapons bearers to security forces, to the media, to political authorities, and local communities caught up in conflict. I did that for 2 years and eventually moved on to the British High Commission. That was in 2015. The British High Commission needed a senior press officer. So I did move there. And that was, again, a whole different experience, because you find that and we'll talk about this maybe during the question and answer session, but different organizations have different communications needs and different approaches to it. So it's never a one size copy and paste fits all model. Yeah. So for the British High Commission, again, their interest was in stuff like that had to do with human rights, economy and prosperity, political support, development and aid, and all of that stuff. So I did the job from 2015 to late 2018. I entailed quite a lot. You had to handle all things from VVIP visits, the Prime Minister. We had a Prime Ministerial visit to senior government ministers, to big announcements, to working with local NGOs and civil society, to a broad range of activities that had to do with their strategic objectives in the country. So I did do that up until August 2018, and I joined a newly set up federal government establishment office, which is the National Social Safety Nets Coordinating Office. It's pretty much like the current administration's flagship poverty alleviation program. And what we do basically is, currently there are like two streaks of work. The first is to identify, working with states and local governments and local communities, identify poor and vulnerable Nigerians in the communities. And then the second stream is targeting interventions that will help pull them out of poverty. Currently, there's just one of those being implemented at the moment, which is the federal government's conditional cash transfer. Some of you might have heard of the government's cash transfer program that pays 5,000 Naira stipends monthly to extremely poor households across the country. Now, the beneficiaries come from the register we build. So I think that's what I'm currently engaged with.
Thank you very much, Mr. Buku, for that presentation. I think we have a sense of your broad base of experience over the last few years. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was saying to you that I'm still waiting for my 5,000 Naira cash transfer.
Well, you don't look it. Maybe if we move up to 5 million monthly cash transfer, we might check if you're eligible for that one. But for now, you're doing well.
I hope so. Thank you very much to the panelists for the introductions. So what we'll do now is I'm going to, basically open the floor to questions from the participants. So if we have any questions for the panelists on today, please just type it in the chat box and then I'll just read it out to them. Okay, so let me start off with, actually, I'll start off with you, Mr. Buku. I know you mentioned the second opportunity you had was taking an internship position in Lagos. How was that like for you? Because I had a similar experience where the first opportunity I sort of had to make my inroads was taking an internship opportunity where it wasn't like a fixed salary. It was just, it was a risky venture. Sometimes I felt that maybe I should have just sat down at home and just kept applying, but I took the risk. And then that eventually opened up doors for me. So what would you say your experience was like? And obviously it's worked out well for you, but would you advise people to, if you haven't been able to get in, is internship a good way to start, even if it's